I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
Hello. Yeah. We're gonna go on a mission right now. So will you come with me?
Oh, you will.
In his time, Heath Ledger challenged his public image and diversified his professional output like so few of his generation. In front of or behind the camera, he was a heartthrob, a clown, a bad boy, a father, even Bob Dylan. From his Australian upbringing to his Hollywood celebrity, his contagious passion for art to his tragic clash with addiction, we remember Heath Ledger. Heath Andrew Ledger was born in Perth, Australia on April 4th, 1979, his given name being lifted from the novel Wuthering Heights, although Heath is not short for Heathcliff, as featured in the book and so often assumed. Ledger attended Guildford Grammar School, a K-12 all-boys private school in Perth. It was here that Ledger got his first acting experience, taking the lead role in a production of Peter Pan. Shortly after, Ledger landed an uncredited role of Orphan Clown in 1992's Clowning Around, a first role that would foreshadow his final ones. Ledger would go on to graduate early at the age of 16. Prior to this, Ledger honed another one of his many talents, choreography. Ledger collected 60 students to compete in the annual Rock Eisteddfod Challenge. The number, Fashion Frenzy, took first place. This would prove useful practice for Ledger to master his dance floor prowess. Ledger's first big acting role was in 1996's Australian series Sweat. Set in a school for the athletically gifted, the characters offered to Ledger were a swimmer or a cyclist. Ledger chose cyclist Snowy Bowles, a teen coming to terms with his homosexuality, as it offered more of an acting role. Following Sweat, another Australian series, Home and Away, and a small collection of indies, Ledger moved to the States and was cast in short-lived Fox fantasy series Roar. Although it only ran for 8 episodes, with another 5 going unaired, the show put him on the map. He also started dating his gorgeous, older co-star Lisa Zane. In fact, Ledger would often be romantically linked with his older co-stars, with future girlfriend Naomi Watts always saying that Ledger was an old soul, wise beyond his years. While Roar tanked, it did nonetheless help him land the role of bad boy Patrick Verona in teen rom-com 10 Things I Hate About You, released in 1999. The twist on Shakespeare's The Taming of the Shrew threw Ledger to the upper tier of heartthrob status, earning himself Teen Choice Awards and MTV Movie Awards nominations. The movie's highlight, a musical number where he woos co-star Julia Stiles up, down, and across stadium bleachers, channels not just his grammar school choreography days, but one of his heroes, Hollywood icon Gene Kelly. The showcase nabbed him a Best Musical Performance nod from MTV. He wouldn't take home the golden popcorn, but hey, Uncle Fucka's tough competition. Here's where things get really interesting. It would have been easy for Ledger, at this point, to become a teen idol and do a slew of romantic comedies, but he always aimed higher.
It's a brilliant read anyway, you know, the character's there, the journey of the character, it was exciting. There was a smorgasbord of emotions that I felt that I could present to the character. You know, in other words, I knew how to play it.
Rather, he went to work with a fellow Aussie whose career he seemed to be emulating, Mel Gibson, in American Revolutionary War set The Patriot, directed by Roland Emmerich.
I'm not going back.
No, I didn't expect you would.
He would then go on to lead his own would-be blockbuster, 2001's A Knight's Tale, which saw him as a peasant who poses as a knight. Dismissive of being typecast, and perhaps getting sucked into the teen choice vortex, Ledger publicly noted that being pigeonholed as one type of actor was, quote, wasting his time, unquote. As such, his next role allowed a break from his perceived persona. 2001's Monsters Ball was Ledger's most dramatic turn to date, playing the sympathetic, shoved-around son of a mentally abusive Billy Bob Thornton. Apparently Ledger, who was a stickler for realism, demanded Thornton hit him for real during their fight scene. After Shekhar Kapoor's The Four Feathers, which was a pricey flop, Ledger went back to his native roots, playing the title role in Ned Kelly, based on the exploits of the infamous Australian bushranger, where he met and fell in love with Naomi Watts, who he would date for 2 years. Rounding out the first half of the 2000s were mystery horror 2003's The Order and 2005's The Brothers Grimm, making his first pairing with visionary director Terry Gilliam. That same year, Ledger starred in Ang Lee's BROKEBACK Mountain. Again, never fearing a challenging role, Ledger played sheepherder Ennis Del Mar, who begins a secret homosexual relationship with Jake Gyllenhaal's Jack Twist. It is a complex, brave role, one turned down by the likes of Matt Damon, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Brad Pitt. Although this should be no surprise, considering Ledger's eagerness to tackle complicated, oft-shunned characters. This, folks, is where Ledger hit the big time. For his turn, Ledger would receive his first Oscar nomination, here for Best Actor, making him one of the youngest to ever be nominated in the category. It was during production he began a relationship with Michelle Williams. Their daughter, Matilda, was born 1 month before the premiere. Through his career, Ledger turned down numerous roles, including Peter Parker in Spider-Man and a supporting turn in Crash, the film that would eventually upset Ledger's own BROKEBACK Mountain at the 78th Academy Awards. This was partly through a desire to control his career, but it also allowed him to explore other passions. Ledger was in a world of constant evolution, driven by a sincere eagerness to learn, devour, and create all he could in life, which would turn out to be a time far too short. Ledger was often documenting his life, on and off the set, with a handheld camera.
Shooting. This is the first day on the PATRIOT for me. I'm looking forward to it. It's been 3 months since I found out I got this job, and finally, after 3 months of sitting around thinking about it, I get to go out there and do it.
Depicting the inner workings of his mind, both childish and contemplative, showing a thirst for youth and a hunger for creation. His natural eye came through in his photography as well, which he archived in various scrapbooks, now held by his father. Ledger, too, would direct several music videos for artists like Ben Harper and Modest Mouse. The most revealing contribution was for Nick Drake's Black-Eyed Dog, all the more touching in that Drake died at 26 of an overdose of antidepressants. Ledger, too, had a strong affection for chess, which may come as a little surprise, as it requires nearly non-stop interpretation, analysis, and awareness. A champion who played every day, often with others in New York's Washington Square Park, Ledger at one point was preparing to direct an adaptation of The Queen's Gambit, with Ellen, now Elliot, Page, starring as Beth. But it, like so many others, would be unrealized until another time. The final 3 roles of Heath Ledger's career were revelations. In 2007, Ledger portrayed one of 7 Bob Dylans in Todd Haynes' I'm Not There. Ledger played actor Robbie Clark.
I knew his music, and I knew all of the obvious songs and albums, like all the essentials, but I hadn't dived in properly until this movie.
Sifting through fame and romantic turmoil in the Vietnam era, while himself portraying yet another side of Dylan, soon-to-be co-star Christian Bale. 1 month after his death, Ledger, along with Bale, Cate Blanchett, and more, was honored with the first ever Robert Altman Award for Best Ensemble at the Independent Spirit Awards. It would not be his last posthumous award. Ledger was next cast as the Joker in Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins follow-up, The Dark Knight, playing opposite Bale's Batman, a role Ledger originally met with the director over. Eschewing the over-the-top, flamboyant approach made famous by Jack Nicholson, Ledger opted to fully dig into the inner workings of the character.
Would you like to know which of them were cowards?
His inspirations ran the gamut, from clowns and ventriloquist dummies to Alex DeLarge from A Clockwork Orange and Sex Pistols bassist Sid Vicious.
No, you complete me.
You're garbage who kills for money.
Don't talk like one of them, you're not.
He holed up in a London hotel for weeks on end to get into the head of the character, who Ledger deemed a psychopath, mass-murdering, schizophrenic clown with zero empathy. It was at this time that Ledger began keeping a diary of his research. The contents show images and cutouts, in addition to vivid scribblings, some from Ledger, others evidently as the Joker. His deep research and commitment had become extensive and exhaustive. At one point, Ledger admitted to getting only 2 hours of sleep per night, relying on often ineffective sleeping pills. He's quoted, "My body was exhausted, and my mind was still going." The role had, to a degree, consumed him. So too did his personal life. Jerry Grinnell, who was a dialect coach for Ledger on multiple films, noted the actor's depression and behavior while living with him.
The impression you have of yourself when you look in the mirror is up to you. You can see whatever you want to see, and you can be whoever you want to be.
In addition to the drugs, Ledger had recently gone through a split with Michelle Williams. Grinnell stated, he missed his girl, he missed his family, he missed his little girl. He desperately wanted to see her and hold her and play with her. His daughter, Matilda, one of the true passions of his life, was given homage in The Dark Knight, her name on Nurse Joker's wardrobe. On January 22, 2008, mere months after filming wrapped on The Dark Knight, Heath Ledger was found dead at age 28. The cause of death was accidental overdose of prescription drugs, including oxycodone, hydrocodone, and more. Ledger may have also developed a case of walking pneumonia during the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, which, coupled with the cocktail of drugs, would have been fatal. Of note, Williams had previously tried to get Ledger into rehab for abuse of heroin, cocaine, alcohol, and pills, but Ledger never walked in the doors. The Dark Knight was released in July 2008, 6 months after Ledger's death. His performance is disturbing and violent, frightening and enrapturing, textured and conflicted. It elevated not just the Joker or comic book nemesis, but cinematic villains as a whole. The interpretation remains the defining version of the Crown Prince of Crime, no matter how many rats and dead hogs Jared Leto mails.
And the Oscar goes to Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight.
For his work, Ledger earned an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor, becoming only the 6th actor to be nominated posthumously for an Academy Award, an exclusive honor bestowed on the likes of James Dean, a legend who I'm Not There director Todd Haynes once likened Ledger to. He would also be just the 2nd to win, following Network's Peter Finch, an actor with Australian ties himself. His final on-screen role would be in 2009's The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, reuniting him with Terry Gilliam. It was during a break in filming that Ledger was found dead in his New York apartment. Less than 2 months later, the plan to continue production was revealed. Friends Johnny Depp, Colin Farrell, and Jude Law would all take on various transformations of Ledger's character, Tony. This method, ditching the use of CGI, allowed the character to shapeshift, to evolve, to immerse yet stand out. Really, not unlike Ledger himself. It was a most fitting tribute to Heath Ledger, a performer who couldn't be replaced, only remembered and honored. Thank you for watching our show. If you like what you see, please subscribe to our channel, tell your friends who like this sort of content, and turn on the bell to receive notifications for all of our latest videos. We're an independent company and we appreciate all of your support.